Parshat Tisa, the Limud Shibile Refuat, Tanya, Bat Hoda Margalit, Yosef Yair ben Aviv Achava, Harav Sivan ben Sima, Betoch Kol Shar Cholei Israel. Parshat Tisa, in the majority of the Parsha, deals with a moment in the Jewish history that hundreds and hundreds of books have been written about. A moment in history that we've anticipated for 26 generations. 26 generations from Adam Arishon are waiting for one moment. They're waiting for one experience, which is to have a lasting relationship with God. There's a moment that God speaks. There's conversations that God has with individuals. But there's nothing in the world that you can say is directly from God. There's nothing that you could look at and know that you have a consistent relationship with Hashem. And in this Parsha, Tisa, Perek Lamed Bet, that moment after 26 generations, Hashem appears in front of the entire Jewish nation and gives them something called the Luchot. And what happens is that for some reason, the Jewish people, although they've reached such a high level, fall so low in the matter of moments. They've reached the climax, they've gotten to the peak, they've reached somewhere where none of us could even imagine that all of the people, every single one, doesn't matter if you were young, old, into it, out of it, on the derech, out of the derech, it didn't matter. All of them had a relationship with Hashem. 5 minutes later, Chet Egel, or 40 days, but really a short amount of time, and you look at yourself and you're saying, what happened? How could we have been so high and then gotten so low in the matter of just a few seconds, a few minutes, whatever it was? But really, is that serious? How could that be? But in order to answer that question, there's one action in this Parsha, which is Moshe's reaction to the sin of the Egel. And the Psukim write, before Moshe comes down, they describe something that seems to be a little bit out of place. Vayifen vayired Moshe minahar. Hashem tells Moshe the Jewish people have fallen, the nation is terrible, and he goes down, and our expectation is the Torah is going to describe now directly what happens when Moshe sees the Jewish people, but the Psukim don't say that. Vishnei luchot ha'edut biyado. And in his hands are the two luchot, saying that these are something so significant. And they continue to describe the luchot. Luchot ktuvim mishnei evrehem mizeh u'mizeh ktuvim. And they describe more of the luchot. And they describe more v'aluchot ma'aseh Elokim. They're unique luchot, they're special luchot, they're written in a unique way, but not only that, v'aluchot ma'aseh Elokim. These luchot that he's walking with are a direct action of God. And obviously this addition is to make it even more transformative when we'll see the next action of Moshe. The next action of Moshe, when he's holding the words of God. These unique luchot. He comes down from the mountain, vayashlech miyado et haluchot. The luchot which were the action and the Maaseh of Elokim. written by Hashem, given by Hashem, anticipated for thousands of years. Vayashlech miyado et haluchot. He throws from his hands, from his own knowledge, without any command and any permission, he takes the one thing that we have waited for, the one thing that God has given, and shatters it in the eyes of the Jewish people. And the two questions that rise on this action of Moshe. What is he thinking? And the Gemaras in Masechet Menachot, in Masechet Bava Batra, and Masechet Shabbat, Daf Pei Zayin Amud Aleph, are all asking, what was Moshe doing when he took these luchot and shattered them? In order to understand that, we have to ask ourselves, what was the significance of these luchot? That the significance of the luchot will enable us to understand why Moshe shatters them. And so the Sefat Emet, in the year 1878, says an amazing question. Sheyesh la'avin ma yitaron kol kach b'ktivat hadibrot al haluchot. Why did we need to write the Aseret HaDibrot on the luchot? D'lichora gdola shmi'ah. The Jewish people just stood on Zayin Sivan and heard Hashem. He said, straight out, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, Lo Yelecha Elokim Acherim Al Panai. He said it. What do you need to write it? The Shmi'ah was on such a higher level. And the Sefat Emet is basically trying to understand what were the symbolism of the Luchot. And he says if you look at that generation, the Shmi'ah, the direct conversation with God was powerful. But what's going to happen in 100 years? What's going to happen in 200 years? What's going to happen in 300 years? What's going to happen in 2,000 years? The Shmi'ah was great for the moment, but the Dibrot were meant for the future. The Shmi'ah made a great connection for that generation, but the Dibrot were saying this is not a moment. This is an everlasting relationship. And as Moshe comes down from the mountain with the luchot, and we said in the psukim, the milah mancha, the guiding word is luchot. In one pasuk, they say luchot 4 times. Va'luchot ma'aseh Elokim. These luchot are resembling much more than words. They're resembling an idea, which is you need to have awareness of tomorrow. You need to have relationship and connection with the future. And that's why Moshe shatters the luchot. And as he looks at the Jewish people, he says, I'm trying to help you figure out and understand, how do people from such a climax fall so low? And the answer is very, very simple. What image do you have of tomorrow? What understanding do you have of the future? And the Jewish people, the moment that they feel something wrong in the present, they fall apart. Moshe says you will always fail if you don't have a clear vision of tomorrow. If you don't have a clear understanding of the future, you will never be able to overcome the challenges of the present. And if we understand this idea, there's someone named Viktor Frankl writes a book named Man's Search of Meaning, and he asks himself a simple question: who are the people that were able to survive inside such a horrific experience like the death camps in the Holocaust? Says Viktor Frankl, who was in the camps, the people who were able to survive had something to survive for in the future. They had an image of tomorrow and therefore viewed the present in a different way. And I think that if we think about this, just end with one more idea. When I was in the army, one of my rabbis from yeshiva came to give us a shir. We were down inside like a dangerous place all by ourselves for a long time, very, very tired. And he said in the army, everyone gets very, very frustrated. You miss yeshiva, you miss the greatness of learning, and you're just like down there, like doing really, like you don't feel good about what you're doing. He said what's so clear about the people in the army is that every single action they do, they have clarity of what they're going to do tomorrow. They know that the training they're doing today is what's going to save the Jewish people tomorrow. And when you have that clear vision of the future, then you'll be able to deal with the challenges of the present. My bracha to all of us this Shabbat, as we learn this experience of great anticipation for a great moment, for the luchot to come to the world. An experience must have an image of tomorrow. When we're educating our children, when we're educating ourselves, when we're looking at our decisions, do they have clarity of where we're going? Or are they just trying to make today a better day? If we have a vision of tomorrow, it will make today a much better day. Shabbat Shalom.